Secretary-General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, who's also a nominated Member of Parliament, also Sossion. And Mr. Sossion, thank you so much for talking to us here on KTN News Center. Let me just start from the sentiments of residents of Mombasa County, some of them saying that the announcement by the Ministry of Education, let me just quote what that parent has said, "Wametukamata ghafla bin vu." They were not prepared for the reopening. Sossion, let me just pick it up from the
Yes, Linda, I can hear you now.
Sossion, you're talking to Brenda Zeda Radido, and let me just pick it up from let me pick it up from where my colleague Tobias Chanji has left it at, and the sentiment of the resident of Mombasa County, that parent saying that the announcement of the Ministry of Education has caught them unaware. They were not prepared for their children to go back to school on Monday, just 4 days from today.
Yeah, but indeed they were also not prepared for the abrupt closure which occurred in March. And let me say this very clearly. Children have been out at home for 7 months. It's such a long period. The information and data that we have is that children have suffered so much. They've gone through a lot of untold suffering. And our analysis within the continent is that school should resume. And in the context of COVID-19 of Kenya, we told the public clearly that when the curve flattens, then schools will resume. Now that it has flattened, what reasons do we have, honestly, keeping children again up to January? That would be 10 good months out of school. And Kenyans are very aware that there have been indicators of preparation for reopening of schools. And this is the second week that teachers are in schools. Kenyans did not question why teachers went back to school the whole of last week, and they're in school this week. And within the COVID protocol, teachers have to report 2 weeks earlier to prepare for safe reopening, And what is on the cards at the moment is safe reopening of schools, right, as to when the minister has announced. And once the minister announces in law, it is not a subject of debate. It becomes law, and it is enforceable. And all Kenyans are invited to look at the Basic Education Act, that you cannot obstruct a learner from attending schools. So those learners, all the learners in grade 4, class 8, and Form 4 shall have to report to schools on Monday. All right. And these two Kenyans, and may I inform Kenyans of the general strategy of the COVID-19 Education Committee. After going through a long process of consultations and consulting the Ministry of Health, and we are satisfied schools are safe to reopen, and right, has been guided by the World Health Organization. And it's good. But the most important thing is recovering the lost time. Kenyans have been complaining about the possibility of learners repeating, and that was addressed by the COVID-19 committee. And if you look at the calendar that has been released, term 2 of 2020 will be concluded by 23rd of December. And that's the truth. And it means teachers will have to work extra, will work beyond the normal calendar time. And
allow me to cut you short. Allow me to cut you short.
Term one, don't cut me short. Let me finish.
No,
term
I need to cut you short.
Term 2 will end on 23rd.
All right, let me just go back to your sentiment. What you're saying, that a consultative meeting was held, but at the same time, you have to agree that not the union officials, the teachers' union officials, are not talking in one voice, including some stakeholders who are still questioning the decision of opening schools on Monday.
Yeah, of course, Kenyans are still reacting in different ways, but an announcement has been made, and I was in that meeting. Not in my personal capacity, but in behalf of the union.
Baada ya zaidi ya miezi 6.
So January to March, that will be third term of 2020, and exams will be taken between March and April and marked. And Form 1s, the current Class 8 will report to Form 1 in the month of May. The current Form 4s shall have to report to universities. And between May and December, the calendar of 2021 shall be concluded. So really what it means is that we are constrained with time, and the earlier the learners report to school, the better. Because the crash program that has been designed is meant to recover the time lost and is meant to ensure that no child repeats, and is meant to ensure that by the end of 2021, we shall normalize. So all these politics of we are not ready, this and that should not arise. There has to be leadership, and that leadership has been provided. A decision has been taken, and therefore we urge Kenyans to cooperate and ensure that learners come back to school at the times that the minister has pronounced. And the minister is not making a street statement. That is a statement of the government of the Republic of Kenya.
All right.
And we've been consulted as teachers. And our teachers are already in school. Our teachers are already in school. They're preparing. And what we urge the ministry is to release capitation money within this week, so that when learners resume, the necessary school preparation shall have been done. There are guidelines and a checklist in every school to be enforced, and it shall be enforced.
And it's good you're talking about those guidelines, because my next question is, they also feel like you're not putting the interest of teachers at heart. And the specific teachers I'm talking about are teachers within the interior.
No, we cannot engage.
Are the teachers within the interior parts of this country, the rural areas, who cannot even have some of the conditions that the government has put in place, teachers in these interior parts who cannot even have access to a nearby health center, because that is one of the requirements of the Ministry of Education when it comes to reopening of schools. So what has the union working together with the Ministry of Education put in place to ensure that even teachers within the rural areas are well taken care of, their safety and the safety of the students is well taken care of when it comes to COVID-19?
Now, with the COVID-19 and reopening of schools, we are not talking of regions, we are not talking of the city, we are not talking of rural versus town, we are talking about every school. Everything has been devolved. The activities, the guidelines, the preparations have been devolved to literally every school. Every school is registered, and it has a board of management, it has teachers, and teachers have been asked to report back to every school and work on the specific guidelines. And it doesn't matter the location of the school. The schools, wherever they are registered government entities. And if I may ask, where in those particular schools, where have teachers been for the last 1 week? They've been in those schools. And we don't have any report of any limitation of any teacher not reporting. I think we are trying to generate a very unnecessary diversionary debate on this process of reopening of schools. I agree, it is very difficult to reopen schools and put in place the necessary measures. And while it is difficult, it is not reason enough to politicize and push it to January. And those who expected that the union would oppose it, I think are very disappointed. We have been within the process of proposing proper reopening of schools right from June. And you remember, NAT has been at the center of this debate. And we've hired medical experts to guide us on when really schools should reopen. And our medical expert, a medical team put in place by NAT, has rightly advised. And we've sat in meetings and we've agreed on all the programs. Why at this time do we then begin politicizing? That is when we lose the plot of what we need to do in dealing with COVID-19. And I think the media also has to be very, very fair to schools. If we open too much debate as if reopening of schools is a matter that will be subject to some popular voting or opinion polling, that is not the right thing. In as much as we listen to Kenyans, and Kenyans were listened to, many of them complained that the candidates will lose their ears. The other classes risk repeating. These are things we considered. And when the curve indicated that it was flattening, we have accepted to bite the bullet and ensure that schools are reopened, and the calendar has been announced by the minister, and the dates have. And the first step And I remember I proposed it myself in the meeting, that schools will not be prepared if teachers don't report. We must begin by developing a strategy of teachers reporting and the necessary instructions given out, and that has been done. So if we don't need to politicize. In fact, within the checklist, the people that will be taken care of very seriously, because we have insisted on safety of all the learners and safety of all the teachers. The teachers and learners with underlying health conditions must be identified and given the necessary primary attention. That has to be done, because finally, we are working within the medical guidelines of the World Health Organization and the ministry. So we'll be doing more caring of health issues of both teachers and learners, other than implementing the necessary protocol. The only thing I know will not be enforced is social distancing. That one Kenyans should prepare.
Finally, as we bring this conversation to an end in a minute, one of the conditions that the Ministry of Education has put in place, it says that all teachers are encouraged to continually provide psychosocial and spiritual support to learners and school support staff during the duration of the current pandemic. Teachers are being asked to offer somehow guidance and counseling to the students in secondary schools and, of course, pupils in primary schools. But at the same time, these same teachers also need that psychosocial support. Who is going to give them?
No, let us not confuse the situation the way it will be. Who are teachers? Teachers are trained pedagogues who provide care to the learners. They teach other than imparting knowledge and skills. This is a moment that we are going to go back to our traditional role of pedagogues. And that is why the pedagogy of within the environment of COVID-19 shall be different. And the frontline officers shall be teachers. And that is why they are in school earlier than learners reporting, because they love to go through the manuals of giving this psychosocial support. And if we begin creating a sort of situation that teachers are too weak, that they need more psychosocial support, that they cannot give the learners, then we are losing the plot. We are trained as teachers, and we have the necessary professional skills. We will have to map out and identify these learners and know the backgrounds, where they're coming from. Some of the learners might have lost their parents to COVID-19. Some of them might have been infected. You'll need to know the background of every learner and focus on the individual learner and upscale the psychosocial support to the learners. That is our work. Just like the medical doctors and medical personnel. We cannot question how medical personnel really will provide the medical care. They are trained to do that job. The only thing we need to do is to ensure that the medical personnel in the medical facilities, they've got the necessary personal protective equipment. Teachers also must be given the necessary infrastructure and support to carry out their duties during the COVID-19. Part of the preparation is these 2 weeks that they've reported in advance. And situations will not be the same in all schools. If we have over 30,000 schools, the COVID situation from school to school will be different. The intervention measures will be different. But there are general overarching guidelines. And of course, the innovation and creativity and leadership of teachers shall be required. And they will know. Teachers will have to know their learners. And even those learners who don't report, we've got to round up and know where they are and ensure that they come back to school.
All right, thank you so much, the Secretary General.
So it's not going to be an easy job. It's not going to be an easy job.
Yes,
and even for teachers to work extra to recover the lost time, they will need a lot of support. And that is why we should remove politics and confusion around reopening and give confidence. And we tell Kenyans, bring your children back to school. They are safer in school than at home.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, Wilson Sossion, also a nominated Member of Parliament, talking to us about the reopening of schools for primary and secondary school pupils and students come Monday. Are they ready to go back to school? A developing story right there. So allow me to take a short break here on KTN News Center. I'll be right